Call the meeting to order. Please rise for the I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, remind everybody to silence their phones. And of course, I want to welcome all of you here. And Commissioner Stephen, it's your turn.
Okay, please join me in the Lord's Prayer. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mike. Okay, do roll call, starting with Commissioner Stephen.
Here.
Mr. Smith, I'm here. Mr. Dove.
Here.
Mr. Reed. Mr. Culverson.
Here.
Everybody's here and accounted for. Public comment. I don't show anybody, but I got a large audience. Is there anybody out there who's wanting to speak? This is fantastic. I like that. Okay, administrative business. Read a proclamation for EMS Week. EMS Week proclamation to designate the week of May 18th to the 24th, 2025, Emergency Medical Service Week. Whereas emergency medical service as a vital public service, and whereas the members of the emergency medical service team are rated to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And whereas access to the quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury. And whereas the emergency medical services fill healthcare gaps by providing important out-of-hospital care, including preventive medicine, follow-up care, and access to time medicine. Whereas the whereas the emergency medical service system consists of first responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, emergency medical dispatchers, firefighters, police officers, educators, administrators, pre-hospital nurses, emergency physicians, trained members of the public, and other out-of-hospital medical care providers. And whereas the members of emergency medical service teams, whether career or volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills. And whereas appropriate to recognize the value and complement of the emergency medical services providers by designate the Emergency Medical Service Week. Now, therefore, I, Michael W. Smith, Chairman of the Leavenworth County Board of County Commissioners, do hereby proclaim the week of May 18th through the 24th, 25 as Emergency Medical Service Week. The 51st anniversary of EMS Week theme is EMS Week. We care for everyone. So first of all, I want to thank the ones that are in the audience. Second, I want to get a picture with you guys. I know you probably don't want, and ladies, you probably don't want to take one with us, but let's get a picture of the EMS people that are here. You know I wasn't going to let you do it, that, Jamie. Good job, Jamie. Good job. Good job. Good job. As usual, good job.
I probably should be in front on like that.
It seems a little one-sided here. Maybe some commissioners can do the same thing. Yeah, there you go. Swap sides, Jim. Jeff, there we go. You're right in front of Jimmy. You got to get between Brian and Jamie. Slide back a little bit. There you go. Okay, all good? Thank you. All right.
Thank you, folks. Appreciate what you did today.
Jamie say something since he's standing up there?
I'm trying to get him back up
Say
here.
something, Jamie.
Come on, Jamie. Or Mr. Miller.
Yeah. Thank you, Commissioners, for the recognition. Obviously, I brought the staff that is out in the streets 24/7. So, again, the recognition is always welcome, and we appreciate the support.
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you to all your crew. The services they provide, if you ever had to use them, they're unbelievable. Okay.
They even provide services to people that don't pay for them.
We'll get
No one's in agreement with
Yeah,
that?
We'll get in the middle of that, Jeff. Got him started. Okay, administrative business, number 2, economic roundtable meetings.
Commissioners, when we met with the city of Leavenworth, they mentioned that they'd be inviting us to their economic roundtable that they have. And last week we discussed potentially appointing one of the commissioners to represent the county on that. So that's why it's on the agenda today. If you have somebody that you'd like to recommend, otherwise I think I know staff will be represented.
I like Vanessa. I'd recommend
I'll
Vanessa.
second that.
You gonna willing to take it?
Is Vanessa okay with that?
That's what I was getting ready to say. Any comments on that?
We don't care.
You're getting voluntold.
It's going to be one of those meetings. Okay, I'll start the roll call. Commissioner Stephen?
Aye.
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 Abstain.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All righty. Mark, do you have anything for the group? Mike, do you have anything before we move on?
I visited with the county administrator about the waiting list over there for Meals on Wheels, and we've discussed the appropriate way to get that list resolved. And the good news is that the list that was at 25 is now down to 9. So they have made progress on this. But he expressed that the commission gives him direction to get that list resolved, that he would work with the Council on Aging to figure out the economics of that and to make that happen. So I just want us to let him know as consensus that we'd like that list to be.
Absolutely. I think there's no reason why we can't figure something out to make sure everybody's getting those meals. They're invaluable to some people. I know sometimes you have to look at it and adjust some things, but my position on that, if the other commissioners are okay with that, and I'll let y'all speak, is definitely go ahead and start that moving forward. Does anybody else have anything to say? Vanessa, I know you were behind us at one time.
That'd be great.
Okay. Jeff? What do you got anything to say?
Yes, Commissioner. I had the opportunity to visit NECAP in it's Hiawatha, 96 miles one way, and I could have did it by Zoom. However, I felt it was next time I will. However, I felt that it was necessary to visit them firsthand, and I think it was a very good meeting. It looks like there could be some possible cuts to NECAP. I just wish that we had more time to go over it. I will be asking commissioners to join us in another meeting, and we can bring some of these things up that came up, because it's going to be, they think it's going to be a shortfall, and automatically everyone has brought up the case, well, Medicaid is going to be cut. Well, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
So we'll bring that information up to the commission and see what we can do as commissioners to help us.
At least talk about it and get the information out. I think it's a good idea, will it?
Yeah.
Okay. All righty.
Commissioners.
Go ahead.
So I just want to make sure on the Council on Aging, the Meals on Wheels.
Yes.
First of all, great job by them to bring that down to only 9 people. They readjusted some routes, extended some times, so they were able to get more people in there. But I'll work with their staff to figure out a way. Obviously, our funding is our funding, especially for this year. So we'll try to find a way that we can fit it within our current budget, and I'll bring a proposal back to you.
Right.
If we need additional funding, I'll bring that back to you, but hopefully we can fit it within the current budget.
Good. That's a good plan to start off with. Mike, did you have anything else?
I was going to mention a couple things about the RHID, but I'll skip
Wait
that.
for that for later. Okay. I don't have anything. Mr. Dove, you have anything? Vanessa?
I think I was just going to say I think our meeting with Leavenworth City was good,
Yes.
and I'm looking forward to future meetings as we have
Yeah.
planned. I think Lansing City's next.
Yep, in June. I think it went very well. And you could tell when you do things like that, it's a surprise on both sides of things that they may have thought or they weren't aware of. And it's nobody's fault whatsoever. It's just that when you go one-on-one with folks, it's a lot easier to get things done than unless you drive 96 miles. It's better to do anything. Vanessa, anything else?
Oh, thank you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
She's quiet
We want to
anyway.
hear you,
She's
Vanessa.
quiet anyway.
Good morning, Mr. Russell.
You know, Harlan's going to raise his hand no matter what. We might as well give him that. Anything else, Vanessa?
No, thank you.
Okay, Jeff, you got anything?
Nope.
Nothing. Okay. Consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? Mr. Stephen?
Aye.
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 All right. Formal board action, excuse me, consider a motion to authorizing changing from the Aetna to Blue Cross Blue Shield of Kansas for the county health insurance coverage for the 2025 through 2026 plan year and utilize the attached rate sheet for the employee share of benefits. Mark?
Commissioners, annually we review our health insurance and other health benefits that we provide to the employees. For the past 3 years, we've utilized Aetna for our health insurance, and not necessarily associated with them, but we have had increases each year because our usage is up. And I think a majority of that you can reflect right towards prescription usage, and I think that that's kind of the system-wide. I think that when we have inflation, it impacts everything, and I think it's really impacting pharmaceuticals right now. And so that's where a lot of it comes from. But this year, when we approached Aetna with our renewal, the initial response was a 24% increase, and we've just been experiencing those double-digit increases for the last 3 or 4 years. So we worked with BOCC, which is our broker. They went out to market for us. We received back 5 proposals, I believe, or 4, excuse me. And Blue Cross Blue Shield came in with the best proposal. It's still a double-digit increase at 14.4% increase, but it's significantly less than the next lowest. So we are going to recommend that the board authorize us to switch to Blue Cross Blue Shield of Kansas away from Aetna. The other benefits, the fees have stayed the same. As part of that change, as you're aware, especially those of you who've been on the commission for a while, at least for the last 8 years, the county has picked up a majority of the increases, between 90 and 100% each year of any increase. With the way our budget is and the way things are going, I just don't feel that that is sustainable. So this year I am proposing that the county and the staff share that increase, where we split that increase 50-50. I think in your packet you have the sheet that shows the difference in costs per month for the employees. For example, on our high deductible plan, the employee only would experience a $64 increase per month, and the family plan would be $145 increase per month, and the county also then has a similar increase on our side. The last few years, the increase in cost has been between $600,000 and $1 million to the county. If we do the split this year, it reflects approximately $327,000 of increase the county will pick up, and then the employees, depending on which plan they are on, will pick up the difference.
Mark, could you, I see these numbers. I've had the opportunity over the years to work with health plans, even including Harlan out there for many years on. The 50-50, to me, the employees are still the number one thing I want to look out for. Could that possibly be maybe a 60-40, or are you locked in on that 50-50 presenting it?
Well, commissioners, obviously, whatever direction I get from the Board of County Commissioners is what I'll follow. I think the 50-50 was just kind of we're each taking our share of the increase.
Right.
We've done a lot of things at the county level to try to encourage employees. We have the annual health benefit that we provide no charge. Last year the county commission implemented the wellness incentives, and quite frankly, we just don't have people who take advantage of those. I think if we were near 100%, I would probably say that it's more doable. But I think that 50-50 is reasonable. But if you wanted to go 60-40, I'm not saying we couldn't absorb that, or I shouldn't say absorb it. I'm not saying we couldn't do that. It's just obviously a slight increase that the county would pick up.
Commissioners? What's the cost for family high option? with that increase
So the total cost to the employee, is that what you're looking for?
for family.
The total cost on the high deductible plan for the employee would be $434 a month.
For a family, just the insurance, then you got dental and
You got dental
eye
and
on
vision,
top of that.
which is $13 for, $49 for dental on family, and $7.40 for vision on family.
Is that for a family of four?
That's any size family.
Any size family.
We with the way our tiers work, we either have the employee only or we have a family plan. I know some plans do like a spouse or children, but the difference in the price is minimal, so we just leave it. We only have the two tiers.
Have we not had a double-digit increase in the last 5 years? It's been almost.
It's been double digit
Yeah.
for at least 5 years. So
Yeah,
we had our best renewal was actually when we went to Aetna. I guess that would have been 4 years ago.
Yeah.
They came in and it was flat that year, and they replaced Blue Cross Blue Shield actually, which had proposed a significant, I think it was like 20-some% increase. So we went to Aetna at that time, and then they locked in our second year renewal, which was still double digit, but it was locked in the last 2 years. Well, last year obviously was this really big one, and then this year they were proposing. They got it down to 20%, but it was still that was their best offer.
But as far as cutting that cost, we've done everything we can do as far as the deductibles and.
We have modified the plan. We've changed our prescription drug plan over the years to try to keep it down. We've increased the amount of out-of-pocket for the employees a couple of times actually to try to keep it down. So I think those things are the adjustments we can make to the plan. I think have been made.
So we've made all those kind of adjustments have been made. So now it's strictly just the subsidy part.
I believe so.
We were at $750 a month for family insurance for a while,
I remember.
a month.
Yeah.
So this
is,
it's better than that.
you know, I don't want to reminisce, but when I hired out on the railroad, we paid nothing, and we also had no copay. And then over the years, it has just changed and changed and changed and changed for us as well. But this seems to be nationally how it's going, in not only private industry but also in government. But you know, you read the articles. We spend more on health care in America, than any other country, and then you turn around and you say, well, are we getting the full benefit out of this?
It's a higher percentage of our GDP than most developed countries, and we have worse outcomes. So,
Mark, do they still use 3 years back on what usage our employees are taking to come out with this figure? They still use that program?
yeah, they review the experience, you know, so that the reason we're getting these double-digit increases is not because our health insurance provider has decided they'd like to just get more money off of us. They do it based on our usage. And we overutilize based on what our premiums are, so that's where the increases come from. And I think last year, when BOCC came in, Ben with BOCC explained that the increase we received last year was significant, but it wasn't what it could have been. You know, when they ran the numbers, it was justified to actually be a lot higher, but Aetna was trying to work with us. But I think that they've just their patience has ran out, so we're moving to a different provider. And one thing, you know, Commissioner, you asked about the cost, and I mentioned the wellness plan. If the employees take advantage of the wellness plan, they can get $50 knocked off of the employee only, and on the family, if both the spouse and the member do it, they can get $100 knocked off. So really, of the 300 and some people who are on the plan, only 75 of them are taking advantage of that program.
Well, that runs when I did Lansing is about the same thing. I guess my thing, and I know we've brought it down from the 700 and the 600, and I wish there was another way we get the usage down, but all it takes is a couple hits, and then you're really, the average just goes crazy. But at the same time, 60-40, you know, the employees to me are what we want to keep around. They do the daily work, and if we're going to sacrifice somewhere, I don't, and maybe that's not the word to use, I don't think it should be on the back of them paying extra on their premium. And I know 60-40 will work, it can be made to work. And that's just trying to give back something. But of course, county commissioners, that's
What's the dollar amount on it? If we changed from, if we went 60/40, how much, ballpark dollar amount for that?
I'm going to say around $70,000 probably, between $70,000 and $100,000 difference to the county.
So, you can, we can always, I agree with your sentiments, but we can always keep saying that because, if we went 30%, it'd be better. And if we went 20%, it'd be better. But across the industry and across the country, what's happening is these costs are skyrocketing. And as we move forward, the cost share is probably not going to go down. It's probably going to actually increase because having a double-digit increase in our insurance every year is not sustainable really for us, except the only thing we can do is pass it on to the other folks. So maybe we can avoid a 50-50 this year, but I would hesitate to make the county employees think that that's not coming.
Well, it all depends what the usage is coming out. If we can have some of these criticals, or we can get folks to take advantage of the things we offer. I was never going to recommend 70-30. I've been doing this too long, but I do know how important it is. And 60-40, I think we can do this year from saying the numbers. Maybe next year it may be reverse, Mike. It may be we may have to go the other way, but I know this will work now. So that's just my 2 cents.
So when I was on the ad hoc committee, when it got up to $700 a month, I said, we can't do this because we're not going to be able to hire anybody. Nobody's going to pay $700 a month out of their check for family insurance. So we'll always compare it to other counties and cities and what they were offering. You can't really compare to private sector because that's a whole different ballgame. But that's why we lowered it, because we had to be comparable. I know this is going up again, and I'm all for employee benefits because these are the people that do the work. And like I said, we've got way behind the ball on benefits and salaries and everything else. As long as it's in line with adjacent or comparable counties and cities, that's the best we can really do. The insurance companies are just, you saw how hard it was to even get one for us.
So I think I would agree. I agree with both sentiments here, but I think we need to probably, we've got our budget cycle coming up. We probably need to, and we need to make a decision on this before that, but we probably do need to do those comparisons before we make a final decision.
I think they did.
Commissioners, I would, pushing this off a week wouldn't be too damaging, but we really need to get this done because we have to start the process of getting all of our benefits updated and then get it ready for open enrollment. So I think we've
You need an answer, Dave, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I think we've done a lot of work on this. I think it's obviously ready for approval today. I think that.
Yeah, I think when I talked to Monica, they already compared to other counties, and that's what I was saying.
So they
this
were
increase.
Well, it's probably
being in line with everybody else.
If we redo, you got to think about the revenue side. If we take $70,000 worth of revenue out of this little piece, then we're going to have to find that somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And that's going to come out of another program.
If I had to take it out of anything, I'd rather take it out of something instead of employees. Willie, do you have any comments on those?
Thank you, Commissioner. Being involved in the health industry for, my gosh, at least 35, 40 years, one thing that will bring these premiums down is participation of individuals who are using the program. And a wellness program, if used effectively, can bring those premiums down significantly. So I think it's incumbent upon us to go to the employees to say to them, look, guys, if you want to pay less, then you have to participate in your own health care. It's easy to go to the emergency room. It's easy to go to the urgent care center. However, that brings the cost, as everyone knows. It goes continuing higher and higher and higher. So without participation of individuals who are using the program, we're just throwing rocks out there at an atom bomb. That's what we're doing. And we're giving them excuses as to why that they should not be paying it. Well, why not give them a reason to pay less? And a reason to pay less is that they're taking better care of their own health. We're in charge of our own health, not the doctors, not the hospital, not the government. And if we could put that into some kind of motion to where as individuals can look at this as a participant of the system, then we can bring those charges down. I've seen it happen on several cases.
Let me ask just one question on that, if I could. We started the $50 if you do the things we need to do. And I see Monica's out. How much this year did we have enroll over last year in participation?
Yeah. So last year was the first year of it. So we only had 75 people enrolled currently in taking advantage of the wellness benefit. Of the 300 and some that are eligible,
Right.
only 75 take advantage of it. And that's what I'm saying. That would bring down that premium significantly if they.
Of course.
The other thing, and I haven't brought it up yet. I was going to wait until we finish this, but we're one of the things that Blue Cross Blue Shield has worked with us on is to help fund a clinic for the employees. And Commissioner Dove, exactly what you're talking about. The cost to go to the urgent care and the ERs are really that really ratchets up the cost. It's like a 10 times difference just to go to urgent care versus a regular doctor, but they've agreed to help fund a clinic for the employees that we believe long term will lower our premiums if the employees take advantage of it. And again, it'll be a free service, so funded this year by Blue Cross Blue Shield. And see how it comes out.
And that's something we've been talking about for a couple of years, getting started, which is finally going to come into play.
Yep.
And we have to see how that falls out. You can't make anybody go do these.
All
That's
those
the
things are
problem.
designed, just like Commissioner Dove is saying, all those things are designed to help employees manage their own health care.
Oh, I totally agree and wish they would, but we can't force them to go attend.
The only thing that forces an individual to do something is it forces upon how many dollars they can spend out of their back pocket. That's what causes individuals to look at it again and again and again. We had when growing up with a young family, if individuals will participate in it with the incentive, not only for their health, but in the dollar in the pocket, we can do better.
I have a question. Mark, is there a way that, and I don't know if this is to incentivize folks, like if they have a spouse that has a plan somewhere else, incentivize them to get on their spouse's plan?
Yeah, we already have that in place, Commissioner.
Can we?
That's the opt-out incentive.
And what's the incentive? I mean, you're just not paying the premium, correct? That's the incentive.
No. The incentive is that we would contribute to them to be on a different insurance plan. So if their spouse had a better plan because they worked for a different organization, they could move over to that plan, and then we'd pay them an amount to not be on our insurance. It's I think right now it's $300 per policy.
So that is a good incentive.
Yeah.
Just trying to think of different. It's very expensive.
Yeah, it is. Okay. Melissa, do you have anything on this?
I was just going to motion to authorize changing from Aetna to Blue Cross Blue Shield to Kansas.
Second.
At a 60-40 split, 40% on the employee side.
I'll second that. Any more discussion? Call the roll. Commissioners, I'm going to start with Stephen.
Yes.
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you. Knowing employees, knowing that this is this is really getting tough on us, please take advantage of the programs that are available out there. Don't have this coming back to us again because we just can't take the hits on this, or the county budget can't take it. So please help yourself, and it'll help everybody down the line.
Plus, help you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let me see where I'm at. I got lost here. So we passed that. That's good. Presentation discussions, Leavenworth County Audit Review. Hello again.
Hello.
It's your yearly time with us. Welcome.
I'm just having Janet sitting next to me. So.
Yeah, that's true.
Hello, I'm April Swartz, one of the partners at Barney & Associates in Manhattan, Kansas, and we have again completed the annual audit for the Leavenworth County for 2024, including the single audit, which is the federal audit that was required due to the amount of federal expenditures that were made. You should have in front of you a letter that's loose. This is our required governance letter.
Yep.
Although we do work with your staff, we work for you. The governance letter relays certain information that is required to be relayed to you. First and foremost is that the responsibility for the financial statement rests with your organization. Our job as auditors is to express an opinion as to whether we feel they're fairly stated in all material respects. And I always like to mention materiality because we do not look at every transaction. Audit is based on risk. We assess where we feel the risk would be. There are certain standard audit procedures that are always applied, and then every year we're required to add an element of unpredictability to test areas that we have not tested in the past. So with that being said, this is a clean letter. We did not have any adjusting entries that we proposed to correct your financials. So the numbers that you're seeing in these reports are the numbers that were presented to you at year end. So we found nothing that would indicate an adjusting entry would be needed. We also had no issues or concerns with the audit this year. Everything went smoothly. We do the bulk of the work remotely, and then we come on site for a day to do the things we need to do in-house. Any questions on the letter? Right, on the actual audit itself, again, I mentioned the auditor's role in the audit. If you turn to page number 1, our primary role is to issue an opinion as to whether we feel your financial statements are fairly stated. The first 2 paragraphs say adverse. Your county, as with almost every county in Kansas, reports under the KMAG regulatory basis, which is essentially the cash basis. So the third paragraph of the audit opinion, unmodified opinion, is your clean opinion for the county. So we do feel your statements are fairly presented in all material respects. As I mentioned, in addition to the financial statement audit, we also were required to perform a single audit under uniform guidance, and we'll talk about that at the back part of the report. But that in paragraph 4 is our reference to government auditing standards, which once we do a single audit, then your entire audit falls under government auditing standards or the yellow book if you're versed in those terminologies. All right, if we now flip.
I do have a question.
Yes.
How your audit and affecting our credit rating, how does that relate to one another?
So the KMAG regulatory basis is accepted by rating agencies. Now we have had we had one city that did full GAAP statements. They were thinking about moving away and going with the KMAG basis. Most rating agencies do not dock you for not doing a GAAP financial. In order for a county to do a GAAP financial, you would need to hire staff to do the GAAP financial. It is basically what it does is it takes all certain funds are one basis of accounting, some funds are a different basis of accounting. You have to roll it all together, convert it all to GAAP, and those numbers mean nothing to anyone, quite frankly. So the KMAG basis is really the most transparent for government because it's the cash basis and it applies your cash expenditures to your budget. So you operate on a budget basis. So this basis of accounting gives you that transparency, how you're operating related to your budget and other directives that have come from a commissioner.
Okay, and you've worked with a lot of counties on audits. So when counties participate in programs that abate property taxes, does that impact their debt ratio, or is there any impact on an audit of how many of those programs or how much abatement of property taxes has taken place?
No, because the audit that we're performing is a financial statement audit. We are giving you an opinion on your financial statement. We are not doing those ratios and analysis that a bond rater may do.
Okay. Thank you.
Good. Go ahead.
All right, the auditor's opinion, again, is a clean opinion. So now we're going to turn to page 4, 5, and 6. You have a lot of funds, so yours rolls on to 3 pages. This is the actual financial statement for your county. Down the left-hand side are all the funds that are used to record the transactions that occur during the year. So for each one of these funds, there's essentially a separate set of books that are kept. Anyone that says government work is easy is wrong because it's complicated. There are a lot of rules around where things are supposed to go in the different funds and what expenditures can come from various funds. So we're going to look at the totals, but if you look at that first page on 4, your main fund is your general fund. So it's at the top. All counties have a general fund. The counties underneath, a lot of counties have the same funds. There are some funds unique to individual counties. So if you will turn to page 5, we're going to look at the first subtotal about 2/3 of the way down the page. This is your county. just the county funds. And so you can see you started the year with $39,776,258 in that far left-hand column of numbers. You collected $90,645,170 of receipts. You expended $88,731,755, leaving you with $41,689,673. We do add back any outstanding encumbrances or accounts payable so that we can come to your reconciled bank balance, reconciled book balance to the bank. So you can see there was $109,000 added back, giving you $41,798,778. I might point out the difference.
So is this where some of these organizations that are writing news articles are saying that we have all these reserve funds?
Well, these are your balances,
Right.
and you have funds that are reserve funds.
But my point is, these are, and the county administrator, we talked about this, is you might show that on paper, but those funds have been designated. I mean,
Generally, the funds are designated. Now, you are setting money aside for unknown things, and that's responsible government. You have to do that. Heaven forbid we have another COVID pandemic. I mean.
But when you write an article and you say Leavenworth County has X number of millions of dollars in reserves, that leaves the impression that we have all this money sitting that we're not using that could be used.
Exactly.
But it's not true.
True.
And that's the point I'm making, is some of these articles from some of the, especially on social media, indicating we have millions of dollars. We do not. We're running a tight budget.
Counties do have millions of dollars, but like you said, they are designated for certain purposes.
Right.
Okay.
All right, if you will then look at, so down there on the bottom of page 5, you see your sewer districts. They're considered related municipal entities, so those get added in. So then if we turn to page 6, you can see that the total checking accounts and other investments total $123,330,000, but $80 million of that actually belongs to others. So that's money that you collected in December that you will remit to the schools and the cities and the townships and the fire departments in your county. So leaving you with that $42,554,983 remaining at the end of the year. Any questions on that?
No.
And if you want to know what that $80 million is, there is a page at the back I can point out when we get there that gives you where that total comes from. The next several pages of the audit are footnotes. They are required by KMAG, but they are there to explain more to the reader about your government and how you operate. So I'm not going to read those to you. I'm sure you do not want me to do that. Let's turn to page 11. 11 is a summary of the debt of the county. The county has at the end of the year, had 3 outstanding GO bonds. One of those was paid off during the year. So you still have 3 outstanding. They're listed there in the top section. The ending balance of those is $22,465,000. You also have 2 revolving loans through KDHE, and those are shown there for a total of $462,000 outstanding at the end of the year, leaving you with a total debt of $22,927,067. Interest paid on the debt during the year was $587,728. On the following page, page 12, you can see the maturities of that debt. So each you can see the principal due, the interest due on GO bonds, as well as on the KDHE loans for each year through the years of maturity. The first 5 years are stated separately, and then they're in buckets of 5 following that. I'm going to skip through. Let's find another, if there's any other notes. Page 13 is a summary of the interfund transactions. So as commissioners, you approve certain transfers from one fund to another. Part of it's employee benefit being moved from other funds to cover employee benefits, which you mentioned earlier. We have the same problem of Arnie's. The insurance keeps going up, and man, you don't want to pass it on. But at some point, it's just not sustainable. Page 17 demonstrates the county's compliance with Kansas budget law. So as you know, you are required to prepare a budget. Not every fund that the county uses is a budgeted fund, so only the budgeted funds appear on page 17. That's why there's only 1 page versus 3. And if you look down the far right-hand column, you can see that all of the funds were under budget for the year, so no budget violations. Your total amount of budget that was approved plus adjustments for qualifying budget credits was $84,587,000, and the county expended $77,305,000.
So when you say violations, that's violations in terms of your auditing.
No, violation of Kansas statute.
Kansas
Oh,
So
we're
if
violating-
you overspend a fund
Yep.
over your legal budget, that's a Kansas statute violation.
That's a
Okay.
no-no.
Also, if you spend
don't
a
wanna
fund
do that.
into the red, if you have negative cash, with a couple of exceptions, that's also a violation, but all of your funds had positive balance. If you have federal funding coming and you're required to spend before you get it, that's an exception to allowing a fund to go in the red. All right. Now we're going to look at just the general fund because there's a page in here for every one of those funds. So we're going to kind of look at the general fund. The general fund starts on page 18. We show you the receipts first, and so you can see the bulk of your revenue comes from ad valorem tax. You also earned a lot more interest on your money this year. You effectively used the Kansas Municipal Investment Pool to invest some of your money, and you earned some great, reap some great benefits from that. And all the institutions we're seeing across the board, most entities did receive a lot more interest income last year than in the past. But it's very important to keep an eye on those funds and make sure you're investing in the best way that you can. I feel like working with Jennifer this year, creating that position that you created, I feel like gives you someone to keep an eye on those kinds of things. They all work together as a team, but if you have someone specifically in charge of making sure we're making good decisions, and it gives you that continuity among all the departments. Luckily, in your county, your departments get along, but believe it or not, we have some counties who have boarded the door up between the treasurer and the clerk's office. I feel like I need to take a crowbar just to get into one of the offices. So, it's a team effort. I mean, it starts up here, and it's a matter of everybody working together for the good of the citizens and for the county and the employees.
So I think we should underline this because this is being broadcast is $833,000 interest.
Actually,
Is that right?
that was the amount you collected over budget. You actually collected $2,333,000,
But
which
over-
is $833,000 more than you budgeted.
Right, $833,000 above what we had budgeted for in interest alone, and that's good investing. And thank you, Mr. Lawford.
Well, I like to take credit for that. However, that's what April was referring to is, Jennifer and our budget and finance person, she manages these weekly. She looks at all of our investments when they renew, make sure the money gets rolled over immediately so it's not setting idle. So that's
a good basketball coach. You point to the
that's a big difference in how it's been handled for the last year, going on 2 years.
And that's an advantage to a county that has a position like that. We have several counties that have a finance director, different title, same thing. They're able to focus on those things. Elected officials have a lot going on in their offices, so it's hard enough just to get the tax done, the R&R, all the extra things that have been added on them, but then to manage all of that as well. It's a big load, a big lift. So if you can afford to have someone in this position, it clearly pays for itself.
Yes, it does.
Then down below the revenues, you'll see we start the expenditures. I always pick on commissioners, and good, you overspent this year. So commissioners are over budget, but that's okay. That's not a budget violation because the budget law applies to the fund in total. So if you look down through the county clerk, she was under budget. County treasurer, a little over. Register deeds, under. Things happen. The budget is an estimate. It's a guess. But you are definitely allowed to overspend in a department if need be.
Bring them back together.
So if we go, so there's a section for each department. If we go all the way back to page 21, which is the total page for the general fund, you can see that in total, the general fund was under budget by $707,857.
That's good.
So no violation. Any questions on how the funds are laid out? All right, then the last thing I'd like to go through with you is the federal audit. So if you will turn to page 52. When a governmental entity spends, or a nonprofit entity spends more than $750,000 in federal dollars in one fiscal year, you're required to have a single audit, which is another audit on top of the financial statement audit. That threshold is increasing. Next year will be $1 million. So there are 2 additional reports that are required because of that. The first one's on page 52. We talked about government auditing standards in Yellow Book. This report is saying we did not find any material weaknesses in your controls over federal money. So we are required to test your controls over the federal money. Right. So the program we tested was the CSL FRF, or the CARES, COVID, whatever it's been called, a million things as it rolled through the pandemic. That was the program that we tested. So we test how you made your expenditures, who approved those, what reports were filed, were the expenditures made for allowable items, did you check to make sure the vendors you paid were not disbarred by the federal government, those types of tests. Page 54 is the report on that test. So this is your compliance report on the program we tested, and we had no findings. So in all cases, the requirements that were laid out by the federal government were adhered to by the county. Page 56 gives you the schedule of federal expenditures. So you can see at the bottom, total expenditures were $7,601,000, and of that, $6,299,000 was part of that COVID money up there in that second section. So that's the area that we tested. And again, no findings. So then if you will look on the last page we'll look at is on page 58. That shows you, as you look down the report, all of them are none. We had no findings. One of the questions that sometimes comes up is if 2/3 of the way down it says, did the auditee qualify as a low-risk auditee? You think you want that answer to be yes. But any entity that uses KMAG will always be high risk. And all that means is we have to test 40% versus 20. So if you use KMAG or any other basis of accounting than GAAP, you're required to test 40%. Any questions? I know that was a lot.
So if you were summing up our audit report, you do a lot of counties, are we appropriately handling our funds as far as you can tell?
I would say yes, and the fact that you are one of the first counties we come to, not the first, but that means things are up to date and caught up and being done on a daily, timely basis. We struggle with other counties that aren't doing the daily statement daily. Right. It's called daily for a reason. Right. Your processes are in place. You have good checks and balances between departments. Your administrator's involved. Like I said, the new position you created, I feel like you are set up for success. Now, that's not to say fraud can't occur. Right. Anytime there's collusion, fraud can occur. But we did not see anything that would indicate that or see any processes that were making it riskier, in our opinion.
Better position.
So that's a good answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? It's very clean, very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Item B is LCDC and LCTA quarterly reports. Welcome, folks. Come on down.
Hi, I'm Lisa. Is this on?
Yeah, it's on.
It's on. I'm Lisa Hack. I'm the Executive Director for Leavenworth County Development Corporation. We are here, both the Port Authority and the LCDC, to conduct an update. We talked yesterday in the Port Authority meeting about what information we need to provide. This is our first one in a long time, so I think it's going to be kind of fluid. It's going to be kind of a learning experience as to how we should present to you. So we might rely on you to feed us some information about what you would like to know.
If they make a mistake, I was on that committee, the recommendations I thought they might want to look at, blame me, not them. But don't blame me too bad. Okay, go ahead, Lisa.
Okay. So if it's okay, I'll go ahead and give a brief update on the things that have been happening, specifically, well, for both organizations, but more so with LCDC, right, with the projects and that sort of thing. So up to date, from January to May, we've received 22 project requests for information, or RFIs, or inquiries, those kind of things, of which 8 are active. I can go through the types of industries, but I don't want to give you more information than you want. So please let me know if you'd like to know what kind of industries that, maybe
tell us.
you would like to know. Okay, so for the 7, I think it's 7 that we submitted or we are actively working on. There is a life science manufacturing company, a cell manufacturing for the solar industry, component manufacturing for U.S. energy supply chain. All 3 of those I submitted the Leavenworth Business and Technology Park. One more that I submitted the Leavenworth Business and Technology Park was recently a metal fabrication company. And then an existing business is selling its properties, so we're working with that prospective purchaser. There's a raw material provider, and so we're working with the county as well as the client. And then there's a service industry. They wanted a small office for music lessons, and so we submitted some information and connected them to some resources. So kind of an array of companies, whether some very, very small and all the way up to millions of dollars. Projects for which we did not submit. And I'll go real quickly through these. Chemical technology plant, Class A office space, a couple of unspecified manufacturing, a couple of unspecified completely, auto distribution, automotive manufacturing, medical device assembly and manufacturing, electronic equipment manufacturing, and a data center. And a solar panel manufacturing. And the main reason we did not submit was because these projects either needed rail or an existing building that we just don't have.
Yeah, we hear rail a lot, so.
Yeah. The most recent new project kind of was solidified at the end of the 2024 Project Transport. Croucher and Associates purchased 2 lots in the Urban Hess Business Center. And they're going to build a 25,000 square foot facility where they'll store and distribute large reels of cable, and which they sell to companies nationally like Kiewit, Black & Veatch, and Burns & Mac. This will be a $2.5 million project, so relatively small compared to some of the projects that I see. 11 new jobs, and the only incentive they received is partial land discount. And that was on the Port Authorities. They did that. And then they did a Wichita State University study to consider the benefit to cost on this project. And a couple of things that we found out with all the information from that project, for the city of Tonganoxie, the benefit to cost ratio is 1.92. Anything over 1 is a benefit to the area. For Leavenworth County, the benefit to cost ratio is 229,392.63. And I've got that if you'd like to see that study. So that encompasses all kinds of impact, including housing, including retail, including all the things that come because this company invested in this park, because these 11 people some of them are living, paying mortgage or rent in the community. They're buying things, which is increasing demand for retail. So it's an all-encompassing impact.
At least I think that's good information, because sometimes when you talk about selling a lot, you just talk about you made the deal. It doesn't show what's coming. I think that's why it was important for you to share what the big picture entails on this. So thank you.
So out of those 8 that you said are active, are those all within cities, those inquiries?
The ones, let's see, yes, Leavenworth Business and Technology Park for several. The music lessons was city. One is in the county, and I'm working with the county on that,
okay.
Specifically Commissioner Stephen. And the existing business selling its properties is also in a city. So only 1 out of those is in the county.
So the ones that are involved with the cities, did those RFIs go to those cities as well?
Well, they come to us, and then we will bring the cities in.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, just a couple more things. Of course, one of the things that we have to make sure we are doing is paying attention to those existing businesses, because over 50% of a community's capital investment comes from those existing businesses when they are expanding. So this year so far, since January, we've assisted 10 businesses. Of those, there was a school, 5 manufacturers, and 5 startups, 3 in the service industry and 1 recreation project. Some of the types of assistance are helping with state programs, workforce assistance, and technical assistance. Within the workforce assistance, we are now conducting 2 career fairs. Those are helping our existing businesses locate workforce, which is one of the biggest issues that they struggle with. So that's one way. Also, the CTE Symposium. The ultimate goal for this program is to create a county-wide career and tech ed program utilizing all levels of education, including school, high school, community college, and 4-year universities. That'll supply a workforce pipeline for our local businesses, offer a skilled workforce resource for prospective businesses, and provide more opportunities for our young people that live here and are going to school.
I think that's something we've been missing. So when you presented that yesterday, I was pretty excited about that, because I think that helps everybody.
Yes.
So
related
to that, we had Shonda Anderson last week from the apprenticeship department, and she was indicating that there's about $700,000 designated towards Leavenworth County for apprenticeships. Mm-hmm. And I've chatted with a couple folks about maybe trying to get some of the school districts and some of the contractors and big business organizations, get her in front of them. And it sounds like this program could dovetail together with that, because we've got those resources designated, but my understanding is it needs to be expended by next July. So can we work together to make sure that happens, to get in front of those folks?
So I work directly, I'm Diana Dodd, Assistant Director with LCDC. I work directly with the CTE Symposium. I'm one of the leaders of this initiative. So we have our regional representative for the Office of Registered Apprenticeship coming to talk to the next CTE Symposium, to talk to the schools as well as the business leaders who are involved about how they set up registered apprenticeships.
That's awesome.
Also have, and I'm going to mess up her name, Michaela Hoffenberg from Workforce Partnership. She is an intermediary, which means that she provides free assistance for the paperwork for them to establish the registered apprenticeship. So we're already engaged.
That's great. So when is that meeting, or what's the date of that?
So there's a portal. We put a date survey out to everybody who's involved so they can vote on their preferred date.
So you haven't established that yet?
It's not established yet. I will be happy to send you all the portal if you want to vote. You're on your preferred date and come. You're welcome to. But it will be in September.
In September. That's great, because we definitely don't want to lose that funding. And she said there's a lot of things that funding can be used for, including tuition.
Yes, and I think that what maybe prevents businesses from jumping on that board is they're worried about the level of oversight or the paperwork. It's actually very simple, and we will hopefully be able to convey that clearly and get more involved.
Great.
Very good.
Very good. Thank you.
I think the final thing, well, 2 more things. I just want, if you're okay to move on.
Go right ahead.
My final thing on working with existing businesses, our most recent expansion, Zephyr Products. They have been here since 1979. They're finishing up a $14 million expansion, which includes doubling their footprint, moving their Missouri operations to Kansas, adding jobs, so that and combining with their sister company, LPF Performance Coatings. So that is, as I said, $14 million capital investment and 74 new jobs in our community. I think I will stop here if we want to talk about revenues. I think one of the things that we talked about, Commissioner Smith, yesterday was, what has LCDC done to increase their revenues? And I've got some numbers, but I can wait, or I can share that now.
You can also share it now.
Okay. So one of the things we did a couple of years ago is we established a investor committee. So they're kind of the ones focused on how can we increase our revenues. A couple of things that have happened, they adjusted the private investment levels, which as a result from 22 to 24 has increased private investment by 15.9%. So there's a little bit there. The golf tournament was looked at, and just making a couple of decisions and changes with how we did that more than doubled the revenues. It went from just over $5,000 to almost $11,000 is the revenues that we're using to put back into economic development. The board of directors made some key investment decisions. It sounds like you all did the same. So in 2022, our interest that we earned on a CD was $400. And then now, in 2024, it's $6,000. So we've made a couple of key decisions. Then also, the Port Authority's contribution have increased at the normal CPI rate. That's what and they've been helping, to contribute to that. City, and they are our largest contributor now. City contributions have increased, minus the fact that Basehor does not contribute, but due to the population increase in each of those areas and the property values, there's a formula that takes those two items into account, and that's caused those to increase. So overall, LCDC's revenues have increased almost 15% from 2022 to 2024.
When you're talking 15%, though, to say a number, I mean, is it a number that is it 50,000? What is it? 15% is great, but what is the number that we're looking at? If you have that.
You're going to make me look and see. If you'll give me a few minutes or a second
Sure.
to look at that. Yes,
whenever you get a chance. I just like to have a number in front of me. Percentages are great to use,
Yep.
but if and you may be selling yourself short if it's a large amount than what we think 15% is.
Okay.
But if you don't have it now, that's okay.
Yeah, I just have the 2025 budget, and I'd have to take a look at that.
I
can provide that.
I probably should have mentioned that yesterday. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay. We got any questions for Lisa?
Can you talk about why the fort for the golf tournament compared to
the decision that we made we were doing it at Falcon Lakes, and unfortunately, one of the main reasons our revenues increases, we decided to switch to Fort Leavenworth, which just their cost is just significantly lower.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and then it's also been a interest for, especially potential players outside of the community. They're always interested in seeing the fort, even people inside the community. So it's an extra draw.
Okay.
They used to do a lot of tournaments up there, and that was just the reason that you're saying. So glad to hear that.
I got some pushback on that, of course, just because, of the way the tax, effect on.
Oh.
So,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
A couple things. LCPA, what is the total reserves that they have on hand right now?
7. I had that here. Do you have that with you?
Well, we have 3 CDs that are about approximately $250,000. And then $7,000 in our operating budget.
About 700.
700 something. I got it here.
820.
785,000.
Okay,
766.
All right, and what services does the Development Corporation provide for the small communities in our county, Linwood and Easton? And have you reached out to them, and are you concerned about working with them in economic development processes?
So we absolutely have resources for anybody that comes to us and says, hey, I'm thinking about starting a business, or I am an existing business and I need workforce. All of those services are available to them. All of the same services that we provide to the ones we're currently working with are offered to anybody in the county.
But they're not currently members.
No.
Have you reached out to them as far as or considered a tier membership for smaller communities? What interaction have you had with Linwood and Easton?
Very little. I have met some people in Linwood years ago, and we talked about that. Was back before I was the director, And I'm not sure where that communication went or what, but no. I mean, we could use the same formula that we use for the other cities, and it would take into consideration property value and their population.
I'm just looking at what's happening down in Sherman Township as far as the growth, and that's going to be a growing area.
Right.
And I'm also thinking up in Easton, there's just a lot of issues up there that need to be dealt with that you guys can probably help them with.
Lisa, I
Good point.
know y'all are busy with the short staff, and I think, I'm not trying to speak for Mike, what he's saying, anytime you can reach out to some of these other ones, whether just to have a visit with them, just my 2 cents, visit with them, especially the ones Mike's talking about, probably wouldn't hurt anything. It just helps us in the long run as far as getting your information out to everybody, too, and what's available.
Okay, I'll make a note of that to
Is that where
discuss
you're
that
going
with the
with
board.
Other questions?
I guess I would also point out something that we forget. Economic development is such a long game. Look at the Gary Carlson Business Park. I should know right off the bat when it was established, 89, I think. Is that right? Anyway, so let me see. I just wanted to point out that, that's taken many years to fill, and it's not even filled. It's got 3 lots left. But the property tax that it's generating and the jobs continue every year, all year long. I just want to point out that the Gary Carlson Business Park was an effort by the Port Authority. And today, just in 2025, the total property tax bill for that park is $466,763. And there are 574 jobs within that park. That's 574 people spending money in our community and possibly living in our community. For the Urban Hess, it's a little bit smaller, but it's a smaller park. It's that the companies in there for 2025, the property taxes are $252,362, and there's 105 people working in those parks. Also, I think I'll stop there.
So related to that, when we talk about Hills Pet Nutrition has come to Tonganoxie, and DSM has come to Tonganoxie, and we were recently toured there, what role did LCDC have in Hills Pet Nutrition coming or DSM coming compared to the role that the city of Tonganoxie played? Did you have a major role in getting those industries in, or talk to us about that?
Okay. So, of course, Steve was the director at the time, and that came, Hills, we'll talk about Hills Pet Nutrition, came to his desk from the Department of Commerce. And so then his job was to put together the project team. And that's a really important job to make sure that you're bringing exactly who should be at the table. And then after that, Barb Hake was the one at the state. After that, they met, and I feel like it was either weekly, every other weekly, and it happened during COVID. So working virtually was kind of a new thing. So every, I don't remember, regular visits. They would come together, talk about what steps need to, what has happened, what steps need to happen to make it move forward, and then finally they all met in person at the city commission. But to your question about the city, they are brought in immediately. When Steve said, hey, it looks like this park. They actually came to us and said they were interested in the Tonganoxie Business Park. We didn't submit a park.
So if I ask the question, would Hills Pet Nutrition have occurred without the LCDC? What would your answer be?
I'll answer.
Okay.
Because if Steve was not making those weekly meetings with Hills, that project would have went to another town.
Introduce yourself first, if you would.
Sure. Brian Habian, I'm the current board chair for LCDC. Steve made the contacts every week or every 2 weeks as the meetings were determined during the COVID timeframe. If LCDC was not involved, Hills was looking at different sites throughout the state of Kansas in this area. In fact, they have the current plant that we have today is replacing part of their Topeka plant. And that was another site that they were also looking at, debating between which site that they want to go with. And part of that process, as Hills being a national company, the team was put under NDAs to make sure that we weren't getting information let out that what we were offering versus what Topeka was offering versus what other towns were offering, because Hills has a very secretive process that they wanted to go through with their technology and what requirements they need to have. As you know, today you can't just walk up into Hills and go into that plant and see what the technologies they're using because it's proprietary to them and their specific production. Yep. So there were a lot of those little details that had to be done and negotiated with people from every community involved that they were bidding on that particular process. So when those type of bigger projects come, the national companies do not want everybody to know where they're picking out land and what communities they're looking at until they've made a purchase.
So we wouldn't have had Hills Pet Nutrition, in your view, if we hadn't had LCDC. So
and then the moment we announced the Hills project, DSM called and said, we want to locate next door to them. Do you have land? So that plant is a direct correlation to getting the first plant in the park.
So people need to understand this because this is the largest private investment in the history of of Leavenworth County that has come in, and LCDC was directly responsible for that coming into our county, and that creates jobs immediately. We also are getting pilot checks right now for the school district and the county and the city are already receiving pilot checks, and at the end of 10 years that will go on the tax roll, I'm assuming, as either the largest or one of the largest ad valorem taxpayers in the county.
At the time of the project, it was the largest investment in the state of Kansas for a private investor to put in a plant. Almost $500 million is what they have wrapped up in that plant. That was before the Panasonic plant went in.
So when we're talking about Economic Development Corporation and what you do, this is a real win.
Huge.
I think so.
Huge.
So I mean, because people call us all the time and say, "Well, what are they accomplishing? What's being done?" Well, right here, this has been done. These are good-paying jobs. This is positive economic development for the county, and it's also positive for Tonganoxie and Southern Leavenworth County, and it's something the LCDC can claim credit for. I don't know if the Port Authority was tangentially involved in that or not, but that is something we can communicate to people that that's what some of this economic development money does benefit.
I believe the quote that George Brakovich gave us at the last update there in Tonganoxie was that once after the 10-year abatement goes away, they will be 30% of the entire city of Tonganoxie's tax revenue.
And that's, I don't think it's 10 years anymore, is it?
No, we're down to 8 years. Yeah, but once that period is up.
Well, see, that's at the point I was trying to make yesterday. The information you're putting out here, instead of just throwing something out there or where you had dinner with, whatever that is important because people can get their arms wrapped around that. And especially it generates more questions from the folks you've heard up here. What is the benefit for LCDC or Port Authority? Well, you look at the jobs and you look at the things they've brought in, people living here. And I know it takes a long time. Like John Jacobson's here. It took us 10 years to get Quick Trip into Lansing. So we know but you have to keep going forward until you can finally land it. And then once you land it, of course, you go on to something else, but that's one of the biggest things that's ever happened in Lansing was that there's other great business out there, but you're doing the same thing. And when it goes down south or whether it goes up north, you need to share that with us like you're doing now because that just goes, we understand it better, and so the people in the community. Any other comments? Harlan, Jesus, put your hand down. Come on, Harlan, I'll give you a minute.
1 minute.
Harlan Russell, Atlas Land Consulting, Baser, Kansas. I wanted to add to the question about the reserve because I think that's a very important question about reserves and why the Port Authority has reserves. It's so the Port Authority at some point can accumulate those reserves and either buy property that can be used for development in the county, or one of the things that's been talked about a little bit lately is trying to build a speculative building in the county that could then be sold to answer a lot of these requests that we get for buildings. And so that's why we believe it's important not only to have that reserve, but also to accumulate that reserve. And a lot of that reserve comes from land sales of property that the Port Authority has invested in before. So hope I didn't steal your thunder, Dave, but I wanted to make sure, because I thought it was a great question about why we have that money, or why the Development Corp or the Port Authority has that money.
So while you're up here, or got you up
Jesus.
here, talk about your. We had a committee where we met, and we've been through ups and downs on economic development, and we had Tom Cole in our office, but talk about your report and what your summary was, what the roles of different entities might, in a perfect world, what we might see.
Yeah, I'd have to go back, and we would certainly be more than willing to provide that report to all the commissioners. Some of you have it, some of you may not.
Yep.
I'll try to remember the summary. That's been a few years ago. There seemed like there were 3 points, and I always struggled to remember the third. But there were, the two main points were, one, on the investment side of when the county funds the Port Authority and the money comes through to the Development Corporation. Having that base level of funding to operate. But we've always come back, and even the report recommended, hey, let's step that up even more, because there are a lot of marketing efforts that we're not able to really dive into right now. Staffing side of things, being able to add staff and grow what we do. We're very fortunate. There is a designation in the nation out of Oklahoma University called the Economic Development Institute. The OUEDI is the highest, most esteemed organization or classification for people in the economic industry. Lisa holds that designation. We're very proud of that. Diana will hold that designation pretty soon. She's about 60% of the way through. That means we'll have 2 of the highest level of economic developers in the county. So we see that as a positive. But having additional ability to bring staff on, to focus on retention, to focus on attraction, really what we do is in 3 parts. Attraction, of course, is the big shiny thing. We bring Hill's Pet Nutrition to town. Retention, and Lisa mentioned it in a report, the investment that Zephyr Products made in the county instead of moving to Missouri cannot be understated. We have to work just as hard on retention as we do attraction. And so to that point, what that committee had found was find additional funding to get into the development organizations to really place Leavenworth County ahead of all the competition out there, because that is really what this is about. It's a competition of being able to make yourself as attractive as you can and bring the businesses in. The second biggest piece to that was, at the time, infrastructure investment really seemed to be one of the big hurdles within the county, and I think that report said, hey, let's hire a person at the county level that really looks at infrastructure, grants, funding, how do we get roads put in place, how do we extend sewers, outside of the normal maintenance type operations that the county deals with, places that infrastructure could be extended, so then ultimately we could invest in property to have more developable property. I'm sorry, I always forget the third.
That's okay.
Mike, do you remember the third?
No, I don't want to. Bottom line is this. Hold on, Michael. Hold on. Bottom line is that's available. It was a good report. There was a lot of friction during those 3 meetings, and we got sideways on a lot of stuff. And that's why it's come back around to where we're at now, and why we're doing the presentations where everybody can understand exactly what the other person's doing, instead of throwing things out there that not everybody understands. And that's, at least when we had that long meeting, that's what it was about. So thank you, Harlan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your minute's up.
All right, thank you.
I have one question.
Oh, Jesus, Vanessa.
Not necessarily, I think, Lisa, or probably anybody can answer it, but when they do these requests for buildings, are they looking at renting the space generally? Or are they trying to?
Good question.
Occasionally, but I would say more than not, they're looking to purchase.
Okay.
That's a good question. I'm glad you waited for that one. Anybody else besides Mike? Okay. Thank you, folks. No, Harlan, put that hand down. Thank you, folks. Appreciate you coming out and sharing that with us.
Can we say one more thing? We just want to go ahead.
So we it was a year or so ago. We're asked by the county commission to look at alternative ways of funding, and so that kind of led us down to the road. It's public knowledge or not, but trying to get a bond issue.
Yes.
To fund
Yes.
this.
Yeah.
And we hired Golden Shovel about 6 months ago to do a preliminary study if that would be feasible, and they obviously came back and said at this time it wasn't a good idea. I think everybody understands how that came about.
Yep.
But in the meantime, they said we need to educate the cities and the people around the area of what is it that we do
Yeah.
to do a better job of telling the story about the Hills Pet Food, about cereal ingredients and the things that we do, and what would we do if we had more money? What could we do? So we scheduled some meetings with the four different towns, Tonganoxie, Leavenworth, Basehor, and Lansing, that we're going to give this presentation to from the Port Authority.
I think Leavenworth County's on the July 9th, isn't it?
And then, yeah, we're here with the county in July 9th.
Yeah, I think it's a good,
Presentation.
it's a good process.
So, just some findings that they had. I don't think it's going to surprise anybody, but just what to get in front of everybody.
Yeah.
You know, how can we do this as a team effort?
Yeah. Well, when I first saw the first report they did, they showed the positive, but they also showed the negative. When you talk about tax, people associate with property tax, and that just, everybody just says, oh my goodness. So the only way to get this to even have a chance is to educate. And I've seen it, but I'm looking forward to other communities, other people getting a chance to see that.
So that's coming. We're going to start with Tonganoxie. We'll be here on the 9th, and then Lansing will finish up on July 17th.
Great, great.
And if there's anything else that you request, we can either bring it at that time to discuss, or
Yeah.
get it to you.
Okay.
How much
you
is
have
that?
a committee that's working on industrial parks. Is that still functioning?
Yes, we've been, and Harlan may want to speak to that. But yes, we were working really hard, and then this kind of whole funding issue has really taken our time away. So it's just been on hold, but it is still active.
I just
We're
want
still-
to, I know that, and you can address this on your most recent applications or people that are looking, but you told us at one report earlier that about 50% were being turned away because of rail access. And so I want to keep it on your radar that
Right.
our next industrial park, we need to have rail access.
At least go after it. Yeah.
We're looking into that.
Yeah.
We're going to come ask for a whole bunch of money.
Is that it, Mike?
And we'll try to find somebody that has it.
Exactly.
Vanessa, did you have another one?
How many tax dollars have gone to Golden Shovel currently?
How many what?
Tax dollars.
For the 20,000 for the survey, and then 30,000 will be the cost of the education campaign.
Yes. That's great. Anything else? Going once? Going
One more thing.
No.
I'll ask one more thing. Can you tie, you've researched this proposed ballot initiative for a percent. Can you tie onto that, not just say economic development, but say you said we want to do certain project tied to the increased funding for economic development? Is that allowed?
I think if we had a constant stream of money, then it was guaranteed the stream of money coming in, then the Port Authority could get bond.
But what I was thinking is if the voters thought that there was an actual project, like we can fund an actual project that's going to help bring jobs to Leavenworth County.
That goes back to when you talk about the audit. If you have a specific purpose for those funds, then we'd have to designate, if that was just say for like County Road 1, you had to designate all the money for that specific project. I don't think you can start
Can it
saying,
be subdivided?
No.
Well, we've talked about it before, having, a business park fund. This is money
Yeah.
that we're setting aside to fund the business park study to get going on that. So I think that would be one of our first goals, would be to identify some property, and then I don't know what the cost would be, but at least get us in the game.
I think to sell it to the voters if they think they're getting a value.
Well, we're going to have
some
specific things that this is what we're going to do with this money.
Yeah, because let's just
Right.
take county-wide sales tax. The cities got together, the county, and listed the projects and things they were doing, and that's so people could understand exactly this is what their funding's going to go for. There's no doubt that we need economic growth in this county. We should be a lot larger than we are. We're sitting right in the metropolitan area, and we've got to figure out a way to get there.
So could we talk about the role of the city's economic development? Because I think the cities have their own economic development staff. So if the RFIs are coming to LCDC, what role do those staff members play?
Typically, it's more retail, some commercial, but they're more focused on the retail.
And that's been the issue, too. That's a good question, President. That's been the issue I had about Lansing and other places, because their mission statement, in my opinion, is two different things. And that's how it was hard to merge Tom with what was going on, but I still think we can figure something else out on that. Any other questions? Oh, God, Chad, you're going to be like Harlan. Come on up, Chad. Come on up, Chad. Morning, sir.
Chad Shimke, Leavenworth, Kansas. Commissioner Reed, I think you bring up a really good point. All of our cities, I think they would probably recognize, they've got deficiencies in their own funding, right? Which also means they have limitations in staff. So when we do need to be able to respond to big opportunities like Hills, you're asking 1 or 1.5 heads at a city to try to take that on. Right now, with an investment in LCDC, you get staff, right? You get 2 or 3 heads at a fraction of the cost. I mean, just hiring one more person might cost you 3 or 4 times what you're giving LCDC to get the same kind of capacity and output. So I think it's really important in communities like ours. We've got to be creative, right? You talk about getting fractional resources. In this case, you can get significant resources at a fraction of the cost. Because as much as every city here would love to have 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 people in economic development, we just talked about the budget at the beginning. It's not here. It's not in the county. It's definitely not in the cities. So we're going to have to work together collectively to make that happen. Now all of a sudden if you have 1 or 2 heads at the city and you get 3 or 4 heads at LCDC plus another couple dozen that are donating their time, that's significant resources for a fraction of the cost. So,
and I think that was some of the conversation we had with City of Leavenworth too, and trying to be some creative ideas on how to make this all work together with all of us, because we are limited, and the money that's going in right now is going in for a lot of this stuff because we just don't have it right now. But at the same time, we got to be aware of what Lisa's been saying, and what we're seeing is developed. I mean, it may take 8 years to get that tax abatement, but when it comes in, that's down south, that's going to be just unbelievable. So we have to keep going forward. And I honestly, I know it's a lot of money was spent because I voted on it also for the shovel ready or whatever it's called to bring in and try to educate the voters. But I think we can't continue to try to get things like the golfing tournament, like the stuff like that, how we get more investors. It's a good thing. But we also need something larger than that, because the county's revenue coming in right now just can't sustain that. And so we're wanting to work with everybody, to see if there's something else. That's why I'm hoping that we can get this campaign kicked off and we'll see if it flies. Thank you, Chad.
Thank you.
I know you had to say something. I'm not going to ask.
So we'd like to hear more.
Mike, please sit down, Crystal. God, I'm getting everyone I know is out there starting. Okay, thank you, folks. We appreciate your time coming out and educating us. Okay, the next thing is other presentations. Mike, do you have anything?
I had the KCATA finance meeting yesterday, and the buses are still running in Kansas City, and they're going to continue to run. But there's issues with the city. That's totally funded through Kansas City, Missouri City Council, but so far for the first 6 months, they have funded them. So
very good. And
some reductions in Wyandotte County bus service. We get none, but we get no services at the moment. But there's some economic development aspects of KCATA that are potentials for Leavenworth County.
Well, you're on it. Help us out. Okay, I just had the Port Authority yesterday. Y'all heard what they had to say.
No, I tried to get on Port Authority's meeting yesterday, and I was unable to.
We're really having trouble with the internet service or internet. We lost a lot of people. Honestly, I wish everybody just show up in person, but because this makes it so much easier. But that's the second time that's happened to you. So I'll bring that to attention. I didn't know you. I know we lost a couple other people on it. So I know they're working on it out there. Anything else?
Okay. No.
Ms. Reed, do you have anything else?
Is a Zoom link sent out for Port Authority?
That's a good question, because I didn't get my invite, so I'm going to be asking on that too. But it's out there. It used to be, but I don't know if it's someone's got. I don't know. I have a good answer for it. Okay. But I know I didn't get one either. I just know what day the meeting's on.
Okay.
But I'll sure bring that up. Okay, Jeff, Mike.
I don't have anything.
I just have one thing. We're going to be out of town, and next week their MARC meeting's on Tuesday. So, Commissioner Dove, if you're our alternate, if you could be at the MARC meeting or Zoom in on it.
It's only 40 miles.
We're going to be in Branson, so I'm not calling into the MARC meeting.
Is it next Tuesday?
Yes, next Tuesday. And
I'll Zoom it from my office.
you want to go to his
Yeah,
office?
I'll come to you.
Okay, that'll work. Anything else? Okay, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn?
Second. Mike?
Aye.
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 Sorry.
Aye. We are adjourned. We'll take a
Willie didn't wanna adjourn.
5-minute break before we go into the work session on building codes.